Hi, everyone. I'm David Aragona, and welcome to the April 10th edition of Horses to Watch. This week, I want to take a look back at three replays from last weekend. We'll start with one that I think everybody saw, but I think is worth examining in depth, and then we'll move on to two other replays, including one on the turf. These are all from Aqueduct, and turf season has returned in New York, so I want to get in one replay from the Aqueduct turf course. But we'll begin with the replay that I think everybody has seen at this point, but I want to discuss it a little bit more. It's the Grade 2 Wood Memorial, which was the feature race on Saturday at Aqueduct, and we can pick it up right from the gate. And there is an incident coming right out of the gate. The number 11 horse, Jovia, is going to cross over, and he's going to cut off the number 5, Final Jeopardy, as well as the number 6, Over Deliver, and just cause this really precarious traffic jam in behind the leaders. And again, Jovia is going to cut over in front of the number 1, Tax, and cause him to veer out into runners. It affects the number 2, Tacitus, as well as the number 7, Not That Brady. Just a real messy start to this race. And the horse that arguably took the worst of it, of those that had a chance to do well in this race, was the number 5, Final Jeopardy, because he just was going to be closer to the pace. He actually broke well and just got completely squeezed out of position. And you see as they move on to the backstretch, Final Jeopardy is going to drop all the way out to last position. That's just not where he wanted to be in this particular race. Not That Brady didn't break particularly well, but he was rushed up by his rider, Rayla Gutierrez, to challenge Jovia for the lead. Jovia had one way to go in this race from the outside post position, and that was to show speed, and Not That Brady just decided to challenge him for the front end. They opened up a large margin on the rest of this field. If you look at the Timeform US pace figures for this race, every single pace figure right up until the final time is color-coded red. This race featured an extremely fast pace, which really helped the late runners. Tax, the number 1, is going to make the first move into the race to try to challenge those leaders. And the eventual winner, Tacitus, who really took a lot of hard bumping going into the first turn, is going to follow him and eventually win the race. But coming to the top of the stretch, I really want to highlight the race that the number 7, Not That Brady, runs, because coming to the quarter pole, he puts away his main speed rival, Jovia, and is going to battle on pretty valiantly to only lose this race by about 6 lengths. Tax and Tacitus go right by him, but Not That Brady really fights hard all the way down to the 8th pole to hold off the horses that are nipping at his heels coming down to the wire. The number 5, Final Jeopardy, is going to pass some tired horses late, but he was just taken completely out of the race that he was planning to run with that incident going into the clubhouse turn. And to me, the race is just a total toss for him. Not That Brady, he ran really well. If you look at the Timeform US speed figures, he actually got a 1:20 because his final time number was bumped up so much due to the bonus he got for contesting that fast pace. And that 1:20 is actually the same number that the winner Tacitus got. So Not That Brady ran a sneaky good race in here. And if he gets back in against New York breds next time, he's a horse that I would definitely look to bet against lesser company. Moving on to a race from Friday at Aqueduct, one day earlier than Saturday, we're going to look at a New York Braille Allowance race for horses that have never won one race other than maiden, claiming, or starter, going at 6 furlongs. These are fillies and mares, and we can pick it up right from the gate. And you'll see that the number 4, Passport to Victory, who was one of the contenders in this race, is going to actually break fine. She's right with the pack. She's going to get into a decent stalking position, and she is really a pace-pressing type. She's a horse that wants to be relatively close to the pace. But what's going to happen soon after is the number 7, A Long Shot, crosses over in front of the field and is going to really slow down the early tempo, and it causes the field to bunch up. And Passport to Victory just gets put in a pretty uncomfortable position because she's between horses, taking all of this kickback, and you're going to see as they move to the half-mile pole, she starts to get a little bit off the bridle. She's not really taking her rider there anymore, and he's going to have to really get after her to keep her in the race. And as they round the far turn, she's just losing interest because she doesn't want to be in this spot. She doesn't want to be behind horses so far off the lead, and she's just going to back out all the way to last by the time they get to the quarter pole. She's really under a ride at this point. Just kind of had to steady there briefly, is really just going nowhere. Usually when you see this happen to horses that want to be close to the pace, they just back up and finish last. But as soon as Passport to Victory gets angled outside of the field, she's going to start running again. And this is not a race that fell apart by any means. The number 6, the eventual winner, Spring Drama, was close to the pace throughout, as was Miss Hot Stones, who also runs well in this race. And as they come to the finish, you're going to see Passport to Victory, the number 4, come back into the screen, and she's really finishing strongly in the final 1/8 of a mile, actually getting up for 3rd. And as soon as they pass the wire, she gallops out past the entire field. If you look at the Trackist figures, she ran her final quarter mile in 24-4, which compared to the other horses in this field is much faster than anybody else was finishing in this race. Passport to Victory is a horse that had been on some wet tracks in her prior starts. She really does prefer fast going, and I think she ran much better than it seems in this race. And if she's back in a similar spot last time in a race that doesn't feature as much speed and she can get her preferred stalking trip, I think she'll be very dangerous and can break through at this level. Now we'll move on to the one turf race I want to talk about on Sunday. It was the 6th race on that card, a maiden special weight at 1 mile and an eighth. And there were 2 horses that I want to highlight in this race, but we'll pick it up right from the start because I want to describe what happens right out of the gate. This is a race that did not feature much early speed, and in my opinion, the horse that should have been sent to the lead is the number 3 Team Win. She was making her turf debut coming out of a dirt race where she showed speed, but her rider Aragona, for whatever reason, had no interest in sending her to the front, and it allowed Jose Lezcano on the number 6 On the Town, who had typically been a plodding late closer, send her to the lead. And she makes the lead and the rail heading into the first turn, is able to back down the pace. And if you looked at the PPs for this race, you knew that it was basically over at this point because there was no way that a horse who can close off her own fractions was going to lose this race, and that is On the Town, the number 6, who is the eventual winner. But I want to highlight what happens to the horses that are towards the back of the pack, the number 3 Team Win and the number 9 5 Alarm Robin. 5 Alarm Robin was a first-time starter in this race, and she broke fine, but just didn't get early position, and as the field bunched up around the clubhouse turn, she ended up going extremely wide, about 4 wide all the way around the clubhouse turn, and her rider just never has an opportunity to save any ground with her. Team Win, on the other hand, is saving plenty of ground, but she was not aggressively ridden out of the gate and just winds up way too far back in this race. She's actually behind 5 Alarm Robin at this point when she had the speed to be in front of this field. I believe she had gone 47 to the half in her prior dirt start, yet somehow she's way behind the pace, going a 49 1/2 in this turf race. Coming around the far turn, you can see that 5 Alarm Robin, the number 9, just continues to lose a ton of ground. I think it's fascinating to look at the Trackist figures for this race because On the Town saved more ground than anybody else in this field, and 5 Alarm Robin actually covered 71 more feet than that eventual winner. And just to put that in terms of lengths, that equates to about a 9-length difference, or about maybe an 8.5 length difference that 5 Alarm Robin gave up by going so wide. Coming to the 8th pole here, you see Team Win, the number 3, finally gets off the rail, and she's actually doing some running at the end of this race, despite being a little green. If you look at the track as closing fractions, her final quarter mile in 23-1 was the 2nd fastest in the race, just behind the winner, who had a perfect trip, and her final 1/8 of a mile in 11.67 seconds was actually the fastest final 1/8 run by any horse in this race. Team Win has turf pedigree. I think she really does have a future racing on this surface, and if she's back in a similar spot with a rider that elects to use her early speed, I think she can do much better. 5 Alarm Robin finished 2nd to last in this race, but to me, it's just a toss because she lost so much ground and she would have done much better with a ground-saving trip. So I would look for both of these horses coming back in a similar spot next time out. So hopefully we can make a score at some of these horses if their prices in similar races when they return. Thanks for listening this week, and I'll be back with 3 more replays next week.